Hello, world singers. My name is Tyler.
And I'm Brooke.
And this is
Cosmere Conversations.
We are here for episode 6, and we have a fantastic amount of information to get through because we are covering mythology on Roshar in celebration of today.
Well, oh my god!
It's release day right
now.
I don't know if you're listening on release day. I re-listen.
When you're listening to this, I am just deep into Oathbringer.
Yes, because Oathbringer is out. Wherever you... No, I can't say that.
Wherever you are, I started reading at midnight when it was downloaded to my Kindle. So.
That's true. Get that sent over
I haven't
early.
Slept. Just, that's what you're imagining right now.
Audible said that Oathbringer was the most
saw that.
Pre-purchased audiobook in history. And I'm going to say, yeah, I'm one of them. I pre-ordered Oathbringer on Audible. Yes, and I am the whole cast. Normally it's a duo that does the work. They're fantastic as vocalists, as actors, and so wherever you're getting your Oathbringer, it's out now. And we have a show, actually a couple of shows, because our next week's episode is going to be about the magic on Roshar.
Yep.
But right now we have mythology, learning about the history of Roshar and all of the important characters, creatures, spren, shards, everything that's going on Roshar.
Yeah,
so that we can understand.
Yeah, I was just saying to Tyler, there is so much that goes into the mythology on Roshar. I don't know if it's just because Roshar has a very long history, but there are a lot of different sort of magical, godlike entities on Roshar. And for me, it's hard to, keep track of them all. There's, shards and heralds and Knights Radiant, and, there's so many different groups of things.
And I'm going to say, those are the easy ones to get that you just listed out. That's like the level 1 entities. And we're going to go through all of the different levels.
Yeah.
And so let's begin.
Well, and I do think, one more disclaimer.
Go ahead.
Because Roshar does have such a long history and there's so much about the mythology, there's a ton that we do not know. So that's a story that's going to keep unfolding throughout the next 10 books. But we're going to give you what we know today.
And it will definitely change. But this is just
for sure
a kind of
what
snapshot
we know so far
in time of what we know right now about mythology on Roshar. Because we know a bunch.
True.
And
There's a lot of info already. Yeah, let's jump right in.
Beginning with the shards. The shards of Adonalsium that we've talked about before in previous episodes. They exist on Roshar and in the Rosharian system. We have currently kind of 3 shards, and we'll kind of talk about what happened to them, but 3 shards that we're going to dive into that exist in the Rosharian system, including everybody's favorite. If you are a fan of Way of the Kings, you know that involves the first shard we're going to look at, which is Honor. The Shard of Honor on Roshar is one of 2. Kind of one of a pairing. Another shard world with a pairing.
Yep. Yeah, so we have Honor. The Vessel of Honor is Tanavast, or rather was, because Honor is shattered and dead. But Honor traveled to Roshar with Cultivation.
Yes, and you have this pairing, like we've talked about previously, with Ruin and Preservation of Honor and Cultivation. I think we mentioned this before. Were they as vessels?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have a word of Brandon that Honor and Cultivation were in a romantic relationship. So they, very purposefully came to this planet together, were together, and I've been doing my reread of Words of Radiance. I just came across this interesting quote from Lift's Spren Windle.
Got you.
And he has this one little tiny line where he's like, yeah, cultivation has kind of lost her interest in, like, the affairs of man ever since he died.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was, like, so beautiful to just imagine, like, cultivation all sad and, like,
yeah,
after Honor dies.
Yeah, losing her life partner, her universal partner, like, literally created life together. But it's also interesting... We know less about cultivation than we do.
Yeah, we know literally almost nothing
including
about cultivation.
Even the vessel name. We know it's female. We believe for sure that we know cultivation is held by a female vessel, but we do not know, unlike Honor, who we do know was held by the vessel Tanavast.
Yeah.
So... Honor and cultivation go together, but Honor from the perspective of the reader in Way of Kings or Word of Radiance, or now Oathbringer, Honor kind of takes center stage so far because the main ethnicity, the Alethi, and the people who follow the Vorin religion, believe that Honor is the God, the Almighty, and that's how they refer to him, as the Almighty.
So that's one of the things that I found very confusing when first reading Way of Kings, is like trying to keep track of all the different ways that they refer to the same thing. So Honor equals the Almighty. They are referring to the same thing with those two names.
Even though we have discussed how Honor is just a shard of the larger Adonalsium. They don't even know about, as far as we know.
Right.
They don't know about Adonalsium and have no word for, like, Father of the Almighty. To them, Honor is kind of the top dog, and God as they know it.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that one of their names for God, as we see a lot in the Alethi/Vorin tradition, they have 10 of a lot of things, right? 10 heralds. They have 10 names for the Almighty in their religion, and one of them translates to He who transforms. And I thought that was super interesting, especially because there might be some relationship there to surge binding, as well as the Parshendi forms.
Yes,
so I thought it was really interesting that they have this name for God as someone who's transforming, and he is sort of, it definitely tracks throughout the story.
I think that the relationship between Honor and cultivation is playing out in a fascinating way in this kind of first half of the epic that is the Stormlight Archive. We have a world that we are dropped into where Honor is dead, Tanavast is dead, the shard itself, the power has been shattered, and everything is kind of going wrong because of the third shard that is present in this system. And that third shard is the shard Odium. Odium is in the Rasharian system, although he's not on the planet of Rashar.
Correct.
Where is he?
Odium is on a nearby planet in the same system called Braze.
There are 3 planets in the Rasharian system that are rocky and relatively they can
there
be
are 3
inhabited.
that are habitable, and then there are 10, there's that number again, gas giants in the Rasharan system. So within the Rasharan system, habitable, that's a hard word, planets, we have Rashar.
Yes.
Braze, which we said is where Odium is, and they also use the word Braze to refer to damnation.
Damnation, yes.
And then there's Ashen.
Ashen.
Which is the 3rd planet, and we have a word of Brandon that Ashen once had life and was the site of an exodus, and that there may still be Spren living on Ashen.
Very interesting.
Yes. Super interesting, especially when we start to get into the Vorin mythology and religion.
We'll get there in a moment.
Just a little bit,
yeah. Let's go to really talk about Odium and look at his role, because Odium is held by the vessel Race. How are we going to say it?
I say it Rasa.
Rasa. Okay.
In a German tradition sort
of.
of.
Okay. It's very harsh.
like
German.
A Porsche, Rasa.
Oh, nice. Okay, we can work with that. Odium is the shard of hatred, right?
Yeah.
We have cultivation, life growth, you know, we have honor, and then we have hatred, going by the name Odium.
Yeah.
Odium is a source for some of the different magics on Roshar and throughout the Rosharian system.
Yeah.
Possibly the Void Spren, right? Or the Void Bringers themselves are connected to Odium.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we can pretty safely assume that Voidbringer is anything in that sort of darker timeline. Like, they have Thunderclass and the
Yes.
things that Dalinar sees in his visions. We can pretty much assume that all of those are coming from Odium, I think.
Got you. And so, really what's going on with these 3 shards is a battle over the planet of Roshar that Honor and Cultivation originally called their home, created not all life, but human life on Roshar, and are going to be attacked by Odium. In this first attack, Odium is successful at killing Honor, but is either wounded, drained of
Weakened
power,
in some way.
in enough that Cultivation can push back. We don't know the circumstances that involve Cultivation, other than like she's there.
Yeah.
But Odium is moved from Roshar in like a weakened state to the planet Braze, and then they've been chilling there.
I mean, his presence is definitely still felt on Roshar, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's manifesting itself more and more strongly through these books, in the form of the Voidbringers, the storm form that's gained by the Bershendi.
Honor, I think it's Honor in one of Dalinar's visions, says, "Oh, he killed me. Odium reigns." So, yeah, it sounds like, anyway, he's the strongest force in that system currently.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see what continues to happen with Cultivation. I think it's one of the big mysteries.
Yes, I would really like to learn more about Cultivation.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was just going to say, we also have entities that are sort of pieces of the shards. So, like, Honor, we have the Stormfather, who is like this big spren or a cognitive shadow of Honor. So kind of his presence lingering on Roshar. And Cultivation, we suspect anyway that the Night Watcher is something similar in that realm of this, not a cognitive shadow probably, since Cultivation is not shattered, but some kind of large spren that comes from Cultivation.
Yeah, manifesting itself in part because of Cultivation's power. Now, we have the Stormfather that's tied to Honor, and even though Honor is dead, the Stormfather remains. We have the Night Watcher that is tied and connected to Cultivation. What then is the connection? What is the spren that is connected to Odium?
That we don't know. And we don't even really know if the Night Watcher is the same thing for Cultivation. There's a lot of evidence to support it, but we don't know the show.
Has not been like written by Brandon anywhere.
Correct.
It's just the heavy speculation right now.
Yeah.
And so it would be further
but I think
speculation.
Especially like the Stormfather is confusing because he's like his own thing, but then also a piece of this other thing. And you're like, wait, what? There's Honor, and then there's Almighty, and then there's the Stormfather, and like, are they the same? Are they not the same? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we got a little bit of like Catholicism going on here.
Yeah, ooh,
with
the Trinity.
Exactly, yeah. So, they are the same thing, but they are different things. And one's the Holy Ghost that's with you all the time, and the other is the Son, and the other's a Father. Like, we have kind of a connection there.
Yeah, we're going to get into some more Christian parallels a little bit later in this episode too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go on to our next topic. From the major shards, we are on Roshar, then going to experience the Heralds.
Yeah. So these are sort of like the next power level, I would say, under the shards. So the shards are like the big powers, and then we have the heralds who are under, I guess if we're keeping with the Christian metaphor, they're kind of like God's angels.
Absolutely. Yeah, super powered, but still more connected, more physical, more grounded into the earth for angels or on Roshar. And in many ways, definitely serving a protector role.
Oh, yeah.
For the life on Roshar, not just human life, but all life on Roshar is protected by these 10 heralds. And the 10 heralds are really significant to understand a lot of the traditions, customs, norms in
everything
the different books
comes from them.
Exactly.
Their numbers, their days of the week, everything.
Everything. The calendar system, the 10 heralds obviously have corresponding 10 gas giants, right?
I mean, we don't know that they correspond, but it's a very interesting coincidence that there just happen to be 10 gas giants in the system.
So we have really a lot coming from the 10 heralds. So we are going to give the name and some of the connections with the heralds, but understand that when it comes to the heralds, that's part of literally what we're figuring out in these books.
Yes.
We're discovering more and more about the heralds. Some we have seen in the flesh. Actually, there are...
Quite a few, not all of them.
Not all of them. It's more than I would originally guess. In 2 books, I might say, I'm pretty confident that I've seen 2 heralds. But in reality, it's
I think
8.
It's 5.
Okay, it's higher because they're always just
hiding.
Moments. Exactly. Little tiny things. Some more obvious than others, some confusing.
Well, and then the other thing is the heralds have a bunch of different names also.
Yeah.
So that's confusing too, because I think they have their original name, and then they have nicknames, and then they have the name that the Vorons have assigned them to make their original names more holy. So there's a lot.
Exactly. And so we are going, and part of why there's such good world building in
is for
these
all
systems
of those little details
is everything you just said,
because that is so
real.
That's how the world works.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah, and when you look at any different religion, mythology, whether it is the Greeks and the Roman gods are probably the most famous example. Every Greek god is also a Roman god, but they changed the name and some of the
characteristics
to suit their different needs. Hinduism has a similar thing where the gods kind of change over time for different people. They do different things and they're seen in different ways. So this is what makes the world so interesting.
Yeah,
but it's a lot. So here we go. Let's look at the heralds.
We're just gonna name them off. And let's maybe also just include what order of Knights Radiant they have.
Great idea. Okay. Let's do it.
Cool.
Starting with Jezrien. Gotta say
it. Because we have Jasnah.
Right? And we know how to say Jasnah's name. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Maybe I should do the names, and you should do the...
commentary? Yes. Excellent idea. So, we're going to reverse this team. Everyone stay with us.
Take it from the top.
Brooke, tell us all about the heralds.
Well, first we have Jezrien, also known as Yezerazeh in the Voron tradition, to make it symmetrical and holy.
Okay. And what you just described, symmetrical, meaning the actual number of letters in the name balance out. Okay.
Yeah, although you also have to account for the fact that H's are silent and simply a placeholder in order to make the name be symmetrical.
Excellent. So those Vorons, just like many religions, we're
going
to fudge the numbers a little bit.
We're going to do this, but it's kind of hard.
Yeah. So Jezrien is going to be in charge of the Order of Knights Radiant called the Wind Runners. This is the order...
Kaladin.
Yes, the order we know the most about because it is Kaladin's order. And we're going to talk in detail about the Knights Radiant later. So let's just go to the next one.
So next we have Nalan, also known as Nail. I don't know.
Nail.
Yeah.
Nail.
And so some of these we know what they were designated as the herald of. Some of them we don't. Jezrien, we don't actually know what he was the herald of. Nalan, we know that he was the herald of justice.
Yes, and his order that Nalan is in charge of is the Skybreakers. Now, Skybreakers are power-wise sharing with the Windrunners, right?
Oh, yes, they do share. What do they share? Gravitation?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
And the character that is a known Skybreaker is Szeth.
Yeah, Szeth has become a Skybreaker.
As of Words of Radiance.
Yeah, Words of Radiance and Edge Dancer.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen a lot of Nalan throughout all of the books.
He's
probably the most that we've seen of a herald.
He's the one that you can catch pretty easily.
Yeah.
So let's go to herald number 3.
Okay, so next we have, I'm saying it, Chana?
Whatever you say is what we're going with.
In a Jewish tradition.
I believe that's a Hebrew tradition.
Yes. Chana, also known as Chanarach.
And for the Order of Knights Radiant that Chana is in charge of is the Dustbringers. The Dustbringers we don't know anything about. I don't think we even have a character that is hinted at being a Dustbringer. So no extra details there. Next.
Yeah. Next we have Videl, also known as Videladev.
And Videl oversees the Order of Edge Dancers, which
that'd be Lift.
Is Lift, and her spren
Wendell.
Generally speaking, there is a male-female difference in spren versus their
that's what we've
bond
seen so far.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. Next, we have, this is the one that I really never know how to say. I'm gonna say Pelaiah.
Absolutely. Pelaiah. Okay. Pelaiah oversees the Order of Truth Watchers. Now, while we don't know a bunch about the Truth Watchers, we do know that one character is a Truth Watcher, and that is our good friend Renarin, brother to Adolin.
I'm so excited to see more of him.
Absolutely. And I believe that Oathbringer is going to deliver more Renarin, because right now, as far as this podcast is concerned, we have Oathbringer spoilers, and Renarin at the end of Words of Radiance is one of only 2 other Knights Radiant that can operate the teleportation system to get to the Knight Radiant City.
Urithiru.
Oh, nice pronunciation there. Not even going to try for that one. And so he's really significant in that position because he's one of the only Knights Radiant that we know of.
The Truth Watchers, I think we may know this, we may not, but I think it's suspected that they are able to see the future. So that will be super interesting to see more of.
Yeah, and especially if there is some element that we've previously discussed of seeing the future not as one thing that will happen, but as infinite possibilities that could happen, as we saw in Mistborn Secret History and with the Power of Preservation. So it'll be interesting what exactly Truth Watchers are able to do, and we'll explore that more.
Then we have Shalash, my personal favorite, Herald of Beauty.
Because Shalash is the namesake of Shallan.
Yeah. And
that means that the order that Shalash is in charge of is the Light Weavers. Light Weavers, we obviously know quite a bit about the way that the power manifests, but not completely. The one thing that we have not seen Shallan really dive into yet is her secondary power. She has the ability to soulcast, and that's a very important and significant power. It's one of the powers that was mimicked by the priests.
Yeah, with Fabrials.
Yes, and there's basically the entire food system and large parts of the economy
Oh, yeah.
are built on soul casting.
Yeah.
And yet Shallan is one of the only two humans that we know of, Yasna being the other one, who can perform soul casting
On her own.
Well, but she
by
hasn't done it
virtue
yet.
of her surge binding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But she hasn't done it yet. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that power develop. And then how do the two connect? You know,
Yeah.
what is the connection between this ability that she has, and we'll dive into this more with our magic on Rashad,
Yeah.
but like, how does that connect to soul casting? Because Kaladin
is
able to kind of...
that's very interesting that will be interesting to watch as the series continues, is how the surges act differently when paired with different things. Because, Brandon has already said that, for example, Shallan and Yasna can both soul cast, but the way that soul casting manifests itself for each of them is going to be different because Shallan is combining it with light, or not light weaving, but
it's
illumination.
Basically light
and,
weaving.
So it's going to be a little bit different each time. So I think that'll be interesting. But Shalash is another one of those heralds that we've seen a lot of in terms of just how much we've seen the heralds. I would say she's probably second only to Nalan. We see her as the nameless mistress who is going around the entire world of Rashar destroying art.
Yes, and specifically art of herself.
Yeah, specifically art of herself, which is
very interesting.
So interesting. And then something I also learned doing research for this was that Shalash is Yezrian's daughter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, man, that I find that interesting also because of Kaladin and Shallan's relationship. Because I haven't read Oathbringer, so I don't know what's happening there. It might develop into more of a relationship. But right now, there's at least an element that just when you said that, I was like, I could kind of see that like a weird father-daughter relationship.
I feel
They're
like more like siblings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so imagine like the older brother to his younger sister, but if their parents were both dead, like,
except that Shallan, I feel like, is more of the older sibling.
Yeah, I think that manifests sometimes, but like, I just see that, because obviously Windrunner's protecting is kind of like a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I just kind of see that as like, I don't know, there's something there. I think there is something.
That's interesting, yeah.
And I didn't know that daughter of
Fun fact
Yezrin.
for you. Okay, and then we have our final female herald, Batar.
Batar is the herald that is in charge of the El Scholars.
So that would be Yasna.
Yes, and she has the aforementioned surge of transformation and transportation. Excellent.
Yep.
Let's go on to the next one. Male herald.
Yep. Yeah, so we're back to the males. Something I thought was interesting about the heralds is how they grouped them. They put all of the females in the middle, and then they're like bookended by the males. I don't know, when I was like thinking about it in my head, I just thought it would like either go every other, or I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Next we have Kalek, also known as Kalak.
Order that Kalek is in charge of is the Will Shapers. Will Shapers, we know nothing about.
Correct.
Okay, no fun facts here.
No fun facts.
Just moving on to one of the most interesting...
Next, we have one of the big ones, Telenalot.
Telenalot.
Also known as Taln, also known as Talinel.
Yes.
Also known as Talinel Alen. He has a lot of names.
Because he is the Herald of War.
Yep.
Which makes him one of the most significant heralds.
Oh yeah, if not the most significant.
Because the culture, at least the ones that we have been most exposed to, are all about war. I mean, Alethi culture is built around war.
Well, I think that kind of comes from something different, though.
We do.
I would say Telenalot, though, is the most significant because he is the one that gets left behind to suffer in damnation.
That, on the big picture, is definitely what we'll talk about next.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll have to talk about that a little bit later, because that's a whole other story.
Yeah. And that is probably one of the most confusing parts when you open up the Way of Kings for the first time, is it does not start with the characters that we know and love of Kaladin and Shallan and Dalinar and stuff. It starts...
Which is great, because it gives you that little inkling.
Cosmere.
But, yeah.
Because it starts with the heralds. And Telenalot, Tom, whatever name he's going by, is in charge of the Knights Radiant Order of Stone Wards. Now, Stone Wards we know nothing about, but our pet theory here on Cosmere Conversations is that in his younger years, Dalinar would have bonded with a Spren, whatever Spren that happens to be, we find out later,
to become a Stone
Ward. That he is not. He bonds with the next one, and that we'll talk about. But personality-wise, as a young man, he kind of has the stereotype. It seems very
Dalinar-ish.
Yeah, it seems the stereotype, all the personality traits kind of line up with the Herald of War, but he's become a different person.
He ends up as...
our last Herald, which is
Ishar, also known as Ishi, the Herald of Luck.
The Herald of Luck. And Ishi, as a Herald, is in charge of the Knights Radiant Order of Bondsmiths.
Mm-hmm.
That is
such an interesting order.
That is the order that Dalinar is currently, and we will find out more about Bondsmiths in Oathbringer, which everybody should go get right now. I mean, it's Dalinar's story, so I'm guessing
that's true.
More on the Bondsmiths. All of the heralds were originally human, and we don't know what exactly happened to elevate them. Maybe they performed some great power or great task.
Yeah, Shallan talks about there being a proving day where they had to somehow earn their place as heralds, is what we're assuming. She just makes a reference to the heralds on proving day in this context that kind of makes us think that they probably did have to perform, very difficult tasks on that day.
And in the modern series that we're looking at now, the heralds are around, or at least 9 of them are. We'll talk about that in a moment. But 9 of the heralds are on Roshar, walking around, doing things. Shalash destroying artwork. Nalan going after any type of Surgebinder as part of Kray's justice. Mm-hmm. But their personalities seem to be deteriorating, falling apart, getting worse.
Yeah,
becoming the worst version of themselves.
Yeah, either the worst version of themselves or some kind of perversion of their initial intent.
Absolutely. And the only other major thing that I want to really mention about the Heralds specifically is that they are the original wielders of the Honor Blades.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about the Honor Blades next episode.
Excellent. Let's go on to the Oath Pact, because this is really
big one.
The driving force of
everything.
The entire universe, the entire Rosharian history begins with the Oath Pact. And as Brooke mentioned, that starts with the Proving Day, where these 10 individuals prove themselves worthy of becoming heralds, perhaps bestowed the Honor Blades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the theory, is that they were then given the Honor Blades, which gave them the powers of those specific surges, which is then how and why they created the Knights Radiant. And sort of another theory, we don't know all of the details about the Oath Pact, but sort of the working theory at the moment is that the heralds were sort of bound by honor to act as his champions in the fight against Odium. So they were required to undergo this torture in damnation. The longer they could hold out, the longer it would be until there was another desolation on Roshar.
So what's happening is that these 10 individuals bestowed great power by honor, possibly cultivation as well, to act as champions. These 10 heralds fight, and as long as they can withstand this torture, there will be no Voidbringers on Roshar. Roshar is protected.
Yeah. Then, when they finally can't take it any longer, Desolation comes to Roshar, and then they have to come to Roshar and actually, like, physically fight the Voidbringers and whatever else comes with a Desolation. So, I mean, it seems like they got kind of a bum deal. They kind of have to play offense and defense at the same time.
I mean, it's so horrific to imagine the idea that these individuals were, you know, tried real hard and did their best, became the champions of their god, and then he was like, yeah, now go be tortured.
Yeah.
And
then fight real hard, and then go be tortured, and then fight real hard.
And do that forever.
With no rest, yeah.
That is their job, is to be tortured until they can't take the torture anymore, and then return to fight in the physical realm the worst things imaginable.
After they defeat the Desolation on Roshar, they can't even, like, stay there and have a breather. They have to go right back.
To be tortured.
And continue holding off the next Desolation. Like, you know, they can't raise their hand and say, get me a sub, coach.
These are the stakes that we're talking about.
Yeah,
like, this
so
is what's
intense.
going on the big game right now.
And when you think about that, you're like, man, I understand why they stuck to those swords in the ground and walked away. I would have too.
Because what you're referencing is the opening scene of The Way of Kings, when the heralds have gone through this cycle over and over again. We have no idea how many times, but they've gone through this cycle. They could not withstand the torture. A Desolation came. They fought. They created some Knights Radiant. They were like, we're here. We're awesome. We totally beat back the Desolation. And most of us survived. Most of us were not killed in the fighting. In fact, 9 of us lived and only 1 died. And who was that one?
Telenalot.
The Herald of War.
Yep. So he died in the fighting, and if you die in the fighting, it's like, you know, game over. You automatically get sent back to damnation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so using that
idea...
idea...
Do not pass go. Do not collect $100.
Using that idea of just a video game, though, so Telenalot dies, his character automatically goes back to damnation to be tortured.
Yep.
But the other 9 survive to the end of the game.
Yeah, so they have, like, the responsibility of just returning of their own volition because they have promised to.
Exactly.
And in this case...
They say no.
Yep.
They say, like, no, this is awful. I mean, imagine... Now I'm really stuck on the video game analogy.
Oh, gosh.
But imagine a video game character who gets to the end of the game. This is like Wreck-It Ralph now. Video game characters coming alive, realizing they're in a video game. But they get to the end of the game, and their job as a video game character is to go back to the start of the game and play it all over again. The heralds get to the end of the game and then just say, like, no, I don't want to go back to damnation. That's really terrible. None of us do, and the promise isn't broken as long as one of us is resisting this torture.
Right. That's what they're hoping. So they're like, I don't know, but this is really crappy, so let's just hope that Telenalot will be able to hold it together all by himself.
Literally putting all of damnation onto one
man. Yeah. And this event is referred to in modern-day Vorinism as Ahariatum.
That sounds great to me. Ahariatum. Ahariatum, the
that
moments...
Is the final desolation is how they refer to it, because they honestly believe that it was the last desolation. We as readers know that it was not, as the Everstorm comes.
World Singers, we are going to pause this episode right here.
Yeah, we've been talking for a long time. We're going to give you a little moment to decompress your Cosmere brains.
And hopefully pick up on our part 2 of Mythology on Roshar.
Yeah, we're not done. We will definitely be back. Until next time, life before death.
Strength before weakness.
Journey before destination.